Trina Shanks.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much. I'd like to begin my speech this afternoon by congratulating the Prime Minister on his statement to Parliament on Tuesday. The National-led government was elected to secure a brighter future for New Zealand. We were elected for our vision of a safe, prosperous and successful New Zealand. We were elected because we believe that all New Zealanders can and should reach their goals and dreams. As the Prime Minister read his statement to Parliament on Tuesday, he talked about the $64 more a New Zealander earning the average wage will take home in their pay packet each week, thanks to the National-led government. He talked about the new company tax, which will give businesses more capacity to grow and create new jobs by making our companies more competitive with Australia and the rest of the world. This is important. This is important if we are serious about our growth. This is important if we're serious about raising the prosperity of New Zealand and all New Zealanders. He talked about opportunity. He talked about a real future. In the Prime Minister's speech, the people of New Zealand saw a government of action. They saw a government of vision. Mr Speaker, I am proud to be a part of this national-led government. On Tuesday, the co-leader of the Greens got up and spoke about her father, an ordinary guy who just wanted to have an ordinary life. This ordinary life that she hopes upon all New Zealanders, while we in the national-led government don't want to turn out just ordinary New Zealanders. We have a vision of creating a New Zealand where our children will have the best possible opportunities and get the best possible futures and have choices about where they work, because in New Zealand we have globally competitive salaries and they are so well educated and so thought of that they can go anywhere in the world to get a job, and they've got options, but more importantly they've got options to come back to New Zealand and live in this great country. Last year I was in Ohio and giving an address at a prize giving at St Benedict's School in Kandala, and I quoted Sir Ernst Rutherford, because sometimes we actually forget that we've got great New Zealanders. He said, "We don't have much money in New Zealand, so we have to think." He, along with Sir Edmund Hillary, Richard Pearce, Kate Shepherd, are all just ordinary Kiwi kids. But they have an extraordinary vision, and that is what the national-led government aspires for all our children. When Labour left office in 2008, we had 1 in 5 children leaving school not being able to read, write or do maths well enough to succeed. In fact, 1 in 5 who couldn't go out and get jobs because they were not educated enough. In early childhood education, we have 8% of Maori children missing out, 15% of Pacifica children missing out, 12% of children in lower socioeconomic areas missing out. In fact, 1 in 4 children in some areas miss out. And these areas include counties Manukau and Northland. In fact, this might have been acceptable for the Labour government, and they sit there and they're laughing at these stats. But in fact, it's not acceptable for a national-led government. We know that education is the key to economic success. We know education is the key to personal freedom, and we know it is the key to choice. The national-led government is committed to building the skills and knowledge of New Zealanders and what we need for future-proof jobs. It starts with getting the basic right. And in fact, the ex-member for Otaki over there is saying, what about the children in Ohio? Well, let me tell you about the children. Let me tell you about the children in Ohio. We have around 2,400 children currently enrolled in early education in Ohio. But the important thing is that we make access to all children for ECE available. It is in Ohio we are lucky. We are middle class, we are well educated, and we know the value of education. But if you're talking about children in South Auckland, if you're talking about children in Northern, those parents don't understand and put as much emphasis on education as what what they would do in other areas where they've got higher participation already in ECE. Priority is to make this even more accessible. $1.4 billion to early childhood education over the next 4 years, the most ever spent by any government, and this has been spent by a national-led government. This reflects the importance we place on the future of our young children. Government spending on early childhood education has almost trebled in the last 5 years, but the number of families accessing the early childhood education hasn't tripled. It has stayed low. So you've got to ask yourself, are we spending the money the right way? We need to target Māori, Pacifica and children from low-income backgrounds who are less likely to take part but would benefit the most. That's why we're investing the national-led government in $91.8 million in 5 community-led projects that will allow 3,500 extra children to access early childhood education across the country. This government is focused on building better literacy and numeracy skills in primary school children around New Zealand, and part of this is our national standards policy. I think every parent has a right to know how their children are going and whether they need additional help or whether actually they need to be extended. Because if we're going to produce the brightest, we have to ensure that they get every opportunity in New Zealand to become the brightest. We are also building more responsive secondary schools that can provide a wider range of pathways so that students who don't want to pursue the academic path to university actually have options to build their skills and talents and have choices in life just like everybody else. But we understand it's not easy for every child at school. Yesterday, the Prime Minister talked about more than 220,000 children who live in benefit-dependent households. 220,000 children who live in benefit-dependent households. This is an issue that I am absolutely passionate about. We know that people getting off benefits and into work improves their quality of life and their children's quality of life. This government is committed to finding pathways for people on benefits, pathways so they can have hope, so they can have prosperity, so they can have choice, so they can get ahead in life. We don't want them dependent on the state, and they don't want to be dependent on the state. They want to go out there and help themselves. So we are providing pathways for them. We are going to support the people on benefits to find jobs that suit them. And this is what this government is committed on, helping people into pathways into employment. In the justice area, the Prime Minister talked about a government's work to protect children from abuse, introducing new laws to toughen the penalty for neglecting or ill-treating a child, as well as introducing a new offence. Nobody in this House would argue that we are the worst offenders for neglecting and abusing our children. But actually, we all know, as much as the government can put things in place, it's not just the government's responsibility, it's the whole community response to ensure that our children stay safe. And this is something that our government is committed to ensuring, that we have this great debate in New Zealand that's at the forefront of people's minds. And if you see something at the end of your street happening, actually you go and do something about it. Mr. Speaker, our government is one of ambition. It's one of encouragement. It's one that believes that every New Zealander can be more than just ordinary. A world-class education system, globally competitive economy, globally competitive salaries, effective healthcare, valuing families, opportunity for all and encouraging ambition. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to stand here as a national-led Member of Parliament today. Thank you.